Hello and welcome to a new video. Remember to like and subscribe. The anime begins with Yuri observing his maid Lilith since she seems to be working too efficiently. When she approaches him to ask how she may help him, the protagonist cannot help but feel skeptical of her because he had to terminate all of his staff when his parents were involved in a vehicle accident because he does not have a large fortune. Yuri made the decision to live alone and do all of the chores himself, but this didn't work out too well because Yuri doesn't know how to. After a bad day, Lilith knocks on his door and requests a job cooking, washing, or cleaning, so he attempts to. Lilith simply wants to be hired and will perform the task for free, so Yuri is forced to agree despite having no money to pay her. Returning to the present, he finds it difficult to accept her since she appears familiar as if he has seen her before. Considering how tasty everything she prepares, how fresh the clothing she washes, and how flawless she is, he wonders whether she is a sorceress because everything she touches is spotless and Lilith turns red as a result. She plays along with his flattery and agrees to everything before she can say that it's a joke. Yuri is furious because her perfection is now clear as a result, and Lilith blushes even more before leaving. Using the justification that she has work to do, Yuri observes her to learn more about her plan rather than just assuming it. Yuri seems upset when Willis asks her directly and smiles, but she explains that it is unavoidable when the protagonist grows his admiration for her since he finds her so endearing, but he is not yet ready to understand her motivations. You quickly approach a nightmare due to your nighttime suspicions that she is planning something, so you go get some water. However, he observes Lilith in the kitchen, and the next day he suspects that she has added something to his food. Lilith then jokes. Yuri is terrified that it is a love's potion because it now makes reason why he feels lovey-dovey whenever he sees her. Although he feels something in his chest, the truth is that Lilith was learning to cook in order to appease the young master Yuri. Yuri becomes anxious because Lilith addresses him by his name and she constantly shifts the subject. His parents, who are madly in love, were the only people he knew who addressed each other by name. Lilith blushes upon hearing this. Yuri is concerned since she knew his name, which implies that she knows a lot about him, and so she flees in shame. Although he's unsure of what she can do with that knowledge, so he looks up Lilith's credentials to learn more about her. During dinner, he waits for her to call him by name so he can do the same and demonstrate that he is aware of her information, but Lilith interferes. Yuri wonders why she continues to refer to him as young master even after telling him that if she... However, the protagonist is aware that it won't definitely be like that since that was the case. They would have a deeper bond. Only the case with his parents, therefore, he plans to mature quickly to learn everything there is to know about her, and Lilith remembers why she came to this house, and she reveals her intentions before going to sleep. She learned about the viewer's parents and hurries to his home because she was familiar with them from before Chapter 2. The days go by and Yuri adjusts to living with Lilith. Then all of a sudden, many new clothes and a new gaming console arise. Hence, the protagonist understands that Lilith is to blame for everything. As usual, Yuri finds it incredibly. Lilith plays along with his suspicions and asks him what he would do if he thought she was trying to dominate him by giving him all these gifts. If such were the case, he rebels and informs her that he will rule the house as the young master. When Yuri commands her to serve him more breakfast, Lilith complies in order to flee as Willis turns as red as a tomato. Lilith repeatedly enters his room to provide him with cookies or tea and observe what he is doing as he studies afterward. The protagonist becomes irate when she leaves because it causes him to become distracted and urges her to stay. Lilith must leave the group with him for a bit, which raises Yuri's suspicions. He goes to spy on her he eventually admits that he can't because she's caressing a stray cat. He is afraid of them, so he keeps away. Lilith gets crimson, and he chooses to confront his fear of cats if she is there, overshadowing him to focus on the cat's beauty. Lilith offers to assist him, but Yuri prefers to handle things on his own since he is the master of the house. She instructs him to play with the kitten and feed it, since she needs to go shopping, but then a more vigorous stray appears. Yuri freaked out when the cat appears, so the small kitten tries to protect him even though the other cat is larger. Recognizes this and moves to protect the kitten from harm as the other cat flees to avoid trouble. Lilith reappears and the cat grows fond of him. She is surprised to realize that he is no longer terrified of her. Lilith feels a little jealous that he does not caress her, but Yuri notices this and caresses her head. Blushes Scarlet, the protagonist prays at lunch. Yuri can't stop gushing about how wonderful. Since the previous time he asked Lilith what to put in the meals she makes, he asks her to teach him how to cook. Therefore, he will be more direct this time and inform her that he is going to marry her, and that is why Yuri doesn't even know how to handle the situation when Lilith becomes red and offers to teach him to cook like her. She shows him how to use the knife and the vegetables, and after he prepares the meal, he is proud of his first few attempts. Despite being the first to taste rather well, He inquires as to the recipe because it doesn't taste the same, but Lilith informs him that she neglected to explain the hidden component that is infusing the cuisine with a lot of love. To Lilith's astonishment, he takes this seriously and views it as the reason why she can perform all of her tasks so successfully. Here he is pleased with everything he did today because of Lilith's love for him, but he still thinks it's odd that she knows. She knows him so well that she wakes up before him and goes to bed after him, which leads him to believe that she is acting suspiciously. He decides to stay up late to find out, but immediately nods off, which reveals that Lilith has been waiting for him. Him doze off first so she can observe him doze off in Chapter 3. Lilith is concerned that Yuri will have to, however, he assures her that he will handle it that way, so he assigns her the task of caring for the house Lilith. Yuri becomes concerned because she reminds him so much of her as she checks him from head to toe to make sure nothing is missing. Hutori is the focus of discussion at school as several students have brought up his mother, causing Lilith to become anxious and send him to his friend Tsukasa, who knows that his parents were involved in an accident, wants to help him in any way she can because she liked him. Lilith liked him a lot when they first met, but she is so bashful that she can never find the right time to speak to him. Since it is her duty as a maid to pick up Yuri from school, but he feels a bit uneasy seeing her. But the person who Tsukasa is most shocked since she believes they are in a forbidden relationship based on how they converse with one another. Fujisaki, Tsukasa's butler, searches for her since she took too long and Lilith spends all of their time together. Yuri Tsukasa begs the girl to stay friends with her since she recognizes her and is familiar with Tuka's family. She is pleased with Lilith and her butler concurs, so she attempts to get Fujisaki to wear that lovely clothing, but she refuses. Firmly rejects Yuri's request for supper, which Lilith has promised to prepare after cleaning the house and going to the store. In order to pass the time until she returns, he chooses to eat some snacks and read his manga. Due to its scarcity and high demand, Lilith is having problems locating the fish she needs, but she is unwilling to compromise. As it is about to grow dark and she wants to make the nicest meal for the young master, but she goes to Yuri worried since Lilith has never stayed out so late at the mansion while traveling to another town to obtain the fish. He tries to call her, but Lilith has left her phone in the kitchen without telling him, so he can't. She could never return home if there weren't delays in the railway lines, which makes him worry even more. Yuri is dejected and upset when she enters the estate thanks to Tsukasa's butler, who saw her and gave her a lift. He asks her if she put a curse on him because he has never felt this way due to the lack of Lilith plays along, but he makes her promise him never to do anything that would make him feel like he could not survive without her. Chapter 4 days later, Lilith wants to dress more formally than she did the day before and depart without notifying him again. She volunteered to be a better adult role model for Yuri, so she started paying closer attention to him. Irritates him since he believes she's seeking for his weak areas, so he wants to leave the scene. Yuri informs Lilith that he must keep an eye on her because he doesn't plan on letting her follow him when she falls on his face. Lilith flushes as a result of his increased scrutiny of her as a result, and she tries to hide it. She acts like an adult by indicating that he spends a lot of time observing her, and then Yuri informs her that she is one. Lilith blushes and acts as though nothing is wrong despite realizing that he could spend his entire life admiring her. Despite the fact that it isn't, she makes another effort to appear responsible and mature by informing him that she is aware. All about his sentiments, but Yuri believes she is suspicious once more since he doesn't understand how she came to that conclusion. Lilith decides to play his favorite game in an effort to win his trust and get closer to him because she just thinks about her. He makes Yuri very happy, and he decides to play chess with him because he has loved the game since he was a young boy. Despite being really busy, he was delighted to see them and wanted to play with them when they arrived home. He spent some time working, and one day he crept into his father's office where he taught him how to play chess because his mother had asked him to. Was portrayed as the chess queen, and the house he was in a great mood, and they had a lovely time. He became very fond of this game throughout their time together, and Lilith informs him of its significance. The next day, Lilith notices the protagonist is a little down and decides to bake pudding to cheer him up so he can play all the games he wants. Despite the fact that it would be the most logical thing to do, she is shocked when she passes it over to him that he doesn't suspect her. She wants him to think she's a spy, so she keeps an eye on him, but Yuri doesn't pay her any attention. Lilith becomes more shocked as a result, not understanding why he acts in this manner, but it turns out that he was merely acting out his emotions. The nerve to invite Lilith to the school's open house day, which students and maids typically attend. Lilith is reassured that Yuri's actions are a result of this, but he can't avoid the question of why Lilith doesn't want anyone other than him to see her, which is why she wears a formal outfit in accordance with these, since the protagonist claims that the parents in school don't see her wearing her typical clothes as being really normal. The day arrives, and Yuri is anxious because he is unsure if Lilith has appropriate clothing to wear, and he also has poor Since his parents were constantly busy, he believes that another year will pass before he has any memories of this day. This time, though, it's different since Lilith is quite elegant in the costume that Fujisaki lent her on the way home, thanking Lilith for her visit because she made both of them happy. Chapter 5, Another Day. Yuri is racing around in Lilith's house, wondering what's going on, and it turns out to be about receiving his invitation. Lilith begins to support our young protagonist after learning about his preparation and upcoming sporting event, but he ignores her. The following day, Lilith goes to pick up the young master from school, but finds it difficult to focus because she can't take her eyes off of him. He explains to her that he couldn't concentrate in class because he was constantly thinking about her. Tsukasa was watching them because she wanted to know how they got along, and since Lilith is so attractive. Fujisaki asks her bluntly if she isn't enough for her since she wants her butler to be more like her. Tsukasa changes her mind because her butler at the mansion Lilith has a direct demeanor, which she finds to be the most endearing. Started looking into training so she could perform a routine for him and stand out at the festival. But the rest of the day is not good at all because a stray cat stops him or he loses control when tugging the rope. Lilith urges him not to give up because he is working out to get better, but now he is in pain all over his body from exercising, so Lilith massages him to prevent him from waking up fatigued the following day. They spend the day together. Yuri trains, gradually getting better till he starts to beat his own records in another mansion, Tsukasa. As she informed her parents about the event, but they won't be there, she goes with her butler to share her drama. They are too busy working for her to leave, so she had to cling on and smile in their presence before breaking down in tears. Butler Fujisaki offers to accompany her in front of her, and Tsukasa beams widely because it was her. The following day during the sports festival, she feigns suffering and sheds some fake tears. When the episode starts, some lads try to make fun of Yuri for being poor, but he challenges them as well, making Tsukasa eager to watch. Despite the environment's tension, she is even more moved to witness Yuri inspired by his maid Lilith's support. Tsukasa believes it will be a forbidden thing, therefore she assures him that she will give him a reward if he succeeds. Together, they succeed in defeating Tsukasa in their first test by promising Yuri their full support. Awaiting the reward Lilith will bestow upon him, but he merely did it to see Lilith smile, so Tsukasa can't even stand up seeing how adorable they are. After a brief pause, Yuri questions whether doing so many things actually makes her happier. He asks Lilith to run in the parent-guardian obstacle, but she doesn't appear uncomfortable. Lilith serves in this capacity despite her fear that things might go wrong because she is his maid. Yugiri urges her to stay determined because she does not want to let him down and wants to do everything she can to make him happy. Because Lilith wins first place in his classmates' object because she is a maid and not a familiar, he receives negative feedback. They leave him alone because he is furious and stands up for her because she is more than just a worker to him. Every time he sees her, his heart trembles, and Yuri tells her that he is starting to question whether or not these feelings are genuine. He continues to be distrustful of Lilith because of her manipulation in Chapter 6 days. Later, Lilith goes shopping and it begins to rain. He begins to watch Lilith as she begins to make blunders that have never happened before and knows that he attempts to take care of her because she has a fever after getting a cold, and Willis teases him because she gets up to continue working since she shouldn't be in a women's restroom because she wants to be by his side always. The protagonist reassures her that it is not true despite her belief that if she doesn't do her job, she will have to leave him. True, as she is a beloved member of his family, and she must now rest. The following day, Lilith feels much better, but the protagonist continues to have reservations, so he keeps an eye on her to prevent her from overexerting herself and also assists her. Yuri assists Lilith with her studies, making Lilith blush by expressing his desire to spend as much time with her as possible. While helping Lilith clean the house, he begins to feel chilly. She wraps him with a blanket, but he worries. Regarding Lilith, he shares his blanket with her despite his dislike of how much her clothing displays because she is also cold. Lilith muses aloud that perhaps getting a cold wasn't that horrible, but rushes to be with her so she doesn't become sick again. Days pass, and Tsukasa asks the main character to her Halloween party so that Yuri won't hear what she said. Lilith offers to make one for him after he analyzes outfits that he can use, and Yuri is amazed by how well it turns out, and assumes that she must have been equally effective in her former position, but Lilith avoids this conversation and asking him to let her choose the color of the crystal on his staff because he wants it to be the color she prefers. Tsukasa is delighted to see such an admirable dragon. Yuri receives a lot of likes on the day of the celebration. Lilith also dresses up. Leela thanks to Tsukasa for inviting him, and the young woman is delighted that she came since they had a lot of fun. Notwithstanding their hilarious costumes, Tsukasa senses that something is lacking, so she turns to face her butler and compels. Fujisaki blushes in embarrassment when she sees her dressed like a princess, but thanks to this, the butler believes that she just accomplished her job by granting her young lady's wish because Tsukasa had the most enjoyment. Even though days later, when she is leaving school, the young girl is already thinking about her costume for the upcoming year. When Tsukasa asks Yuri about Lilith, he replies that she is working at the estate and provides her the party images. Says he wants to get there quickly to assist her, while Lilith checks the mail at the mansion and is shocked to see it. When Yuri arrives, he discovers the letter she had hidden from him because she didn't want him to see it. Yuri finds the meal to be rather bland at dinner, which makes it seem even more suspect. Lilith informs him that his smile gave her the motivation to continue when she first arrived, but tonight will be the last. He is shocked to learn this, but it turns out that Lilith's former masters located her in order for her to watch it. Return to her former mansion, but Yuri won't let her leave because to the curse, he can't survive without her. Lilith tears up the letter and decides to stay after getting the news that he is now her master. Yuri feels relieved by young master's comments and gives her a bare embrace. In Chapter 7, the protagonist is assigned a new assignment. That is all for Part 1. Remember to like and subscribe for Part 2.